Hello, we are going to talk about all the history of fan clubs.
Oh my gosh, I love them.
So fan clubs have been around for quite a while, actually. And they originated in the 1800s when opera singers were a thing, and they, surprise, developed a fandom because they were so good at opera singing. When they started having concerts in America, their managers would make merch for them, and fans would actively listen to their music and write in their diaries about their favorite opera singer.
And the letter writing back then, even up until really I feel like the 80s, that was the thing for fan clubs, was every artist had a mailing address. Even in the 2000s, I remember in the back of Tiger Beat magazine, they'd have all the artists P.O. boxes listed so you could mail them fan mail. Who knows if they ever got it. I think we all know from the 1D movie, and was it Liam's dad had the boxes and boxes of fan mail in their house.
And Justin Bieber's always got sent to his grandparents' house.
Yeah, so who knows who will get your mail. I don't even know if you can do that today. I know Taylor Swift still has a mailing address you can mail to.
These fans were super invested in them and their careers, and also their personal life as well. But yeah, so that started with opera singers in the 1800s. And then we move into the 1920s, where movies are the next big thing. So fan clubs supporting movie stars became a thing. So Shirley Temple and a bunch of those famous actresses and actors back then had really big fan clubs. I think that Shirley Temple had 4 million people, which is crazy in that time.
The crazy thing is too that people don't realize, and it sounds so insane to think about it, but recorded music, being able to press play and listen to a song, has only existed for about 100 years, which is mind-blowing to me that humanity was thousands of years back, and we've only had recorded music for a very short period of time when you look at history. And so it was really in the 20s when it started to be affordable enough for people to have home players to play vinyl. So that's really when music started really spreading on a global scale, because you think about those opera singers, they didn't have any recorded music, which is crazy. So you had to go see them live. So I'm sure you saw fans, the same fans at every single show who were the super fans, quite you do now.
Yeah, just like Harry Styles' Barricade. Yeah, so then it became a thing with movie stars. That was really the big thing back then, because Sarah said, we were just now getting into recorded music. So fast forward about 40 years into the 60s, this is Beatlemania. Also around this time, not only artists like the Beatles,
the Monkees, the Deadheads, I feel became really big in the 60s going on the 70s. You did have a lot of people who became popular from the Ed Sullivan Show. That was there wasn't anything else on. It was the only night show, kind of the Tonight Show of the 60s.
Yeah, and this was the first time that people could really watch videos of their favorite artists singing. So there was another I would say wave of fan clubs within this time. It was also really popular for fans of movie stars to do this thing called boosting, which is where they would flood a movie studio executive with letters in support of their favorite movie stars.
That's crazy.
Yes, so that they would get better roles. And that just proves that the power of fandom has always been there.
One of my favorite things, when I was studying abroad, we went and did a weekend trip in Liverpool and went to a Beatles museum, and they had all of the stuff from the Beatles fan club. So they used to send out a record every month that was one song that was exclusive to fan club members. And so they get it in the mail, and they always did a Christmas song during December. And there's still fans to this day. You can Google and find them. These 90-year-old Beatles fans who you can find photos of their beehive haircut and all that stuff. So I know I would have been a Beatlemania person if I were in the 60s. It's so cool.
We're going to discuss the difference between official and unofficial in a little bit, but just a little bit of history. These record labels and big entertainment corporations, obviously they paid attention to this and decided, okay, well, this is an opportunity for us to
foster the fan base.
But I think that some of them were also just in it for the money, which, like, it's a big corporation, you know how it is. These official fan clubs that a lot of the like labels and big corporations started began to feel inauthentic to fans and phony because of their involvement, and fans can really see through all of that. And so with the rise of punk in the 70s and this like punk movement, punk fans began to develop this like do-it-yourself method. So they started doing things that official fan clubs would do, and they distributed and wrote their own magazines, which you probably know as like a fanzine, and they would pass them out at shows. And then they kind of developed this like system of like local fan clubs and like having local chapters of fan clubs, because it was only by like word of mouth, and this was before the internet. And they also during this time developed like distinctive fashions for a specific fandom. This is where that originated.
Well, you think of the Deadheads, and like that's when that I can think of was the first time that really fan-made merch was the thing. Because that's how, if you don't know, when the Deadheads would go on tour, fans would come with their little hippie Volkswagen van, pull up and sell merch in the parking lot to each other. And it still happens to this day. If you go to a Dead & Company show, you will see those like 60, 70-year-old people selling merch out of their van. It's so crazy.
Then in 1979, right before the internet and the computer and all of that, there was this magazine started called the Fan Club Directory that like you could get in the mail, like you could subscribe to it like a magazine, and it had like all of the official and like unofficial fan clubs. Like it was like pages and pages of just like list of fan clubs in it. Yeah, the woman who started it, I forget her name, but she worked on it for like 30 years and finally retired in like 2002 or something. Yeah.
Wow.
She like dedicated her life to it. And so then we have the internet in the 80s. This brings along the development of computer bulletin boards and like discussion lists and stuff like that. This gave a way for fans to connect like they have never connected before, and obviously changed the course of the world because no one had ever seen anything like this.
So we just had some little technical issues, but it's okay because now we're filming on our phone. So we're gonna finish this video up for you because we're really excited to talk about fan clubs.
Before I was rudely interrupted, groups like the Deadheads, they moved from offline to online, and this is where fandom as we know it today, like online, really started manifesting. So then you have the invention of the World Wide Web in the 1990s. This is where being online went from being just like a tool to fandom to being where fandom exists. Obviously, with this invention of the World Wide Web, you can talk to people in a different country than you.
Everywhere.
You can learn about things very quickly. We have tons of videos you can watch about the internet and fandom if you want to watch them.
And I feel like one of the first places really where fandom started to take on a life of its own was MySpace.
Yeah.
And that's really where artists started realizing, oh my gosh, I can use the internet to get fans. And then they started building fan bases online.
So with the rise of that in the 90s and into the early 2000s, the National Association of Fan Clubs, which was like the official organization, disbanded in 2002 after 25 years of existing because they realized very quickly that no one wanted fan clubs as we knew them pre-internet. With that, in the early 2000s, you have the rise of blogs and music forums, and these served as a place for fans to connect with each other. And like we said, like artists started realizing that they could use these spaces to talk to their fans as well. So in these spaces like MySpace and other forums, the artists began to do like Q&As or song previews to see how their fan bases would react. And so this was really the start of social media and how it is used by artists today.
And for those who are too young to know this age, you might be too young to know, like, I remember I was an avid Jonas Brothers fan back in the day, still am, but they used to have a fan club, but then there were also all these unofficial fan clubs all over the internet, and it's like pre-social media, it was just forums, like it was text where you could communicate with another person via text. Pictures were like pretty rare, especially in the beginning days of the internet, and then 90s we started getting all the images and videos, and then YouTube came about in the 2000s. So in the early days though, like you couldn't watch videos of your artist on the internet, and so really with the creation of social media we started getting way more content from artists, photos, videos, text, all the things.
I also feel like this is where websites, and like not only artist websites but like fan club websites also became very popular during this time, because people figured out like, oh well, like I can just buy a domain and this can be where the fan club lives. Obviously now you can just use social media and like create a group or like Discord or something, but if you are a fan and you're watching this, then I probably don't need to explain how social media has impacted fandom to you, because you probably know. But now fans can show love and support for their favorite artist through like likes and comments and shares via social media, without having to join a fan club necessarily. And this caused the fan club boom per se to decline, and they kind of declined in popularity after the rise of social media.
And that was really in like the mid 2000s, because I remember being a part of Team Jonas, was the Jonas Brothers fan club, and that really, it went under, I want to say it was like maybe 2008, and so that's when you started to see all these fan clubs shutting down because they were now posting on social media.
However, now the problem that we see is that one, your artist is not very active on social media, or it's not really the artist that runs the social media, so it's like a lot less intimate.
And I think the crazy thing is, although social media was invented to connect each other, a lot of fans say that they almost feel more isolated than ever because it's all just in your phone, and they aren't talking to people in person anymore, or they aren't, we really have to encourage this like fan to fan interaction and make a safe space. And I think that's what fan clubs used to be, and that's what we're trying to bring back now, is this safe community where fans feel like they can be themselves, and the fan supports the artist and the artist supports the fan, and everyone can benefit.
What do I mean when I say unofficial versus official? So unofficial means that the artist has little to no involvement within the fan club, so it's completely fan ran. And historically, in the past, they had like dues, yearly dues that you paid to be a part of the fan club, and you get like a little membership card, and they host meetings or conventions, and you get a newsletter every so often.
And this really depended on the fandom. So it depended on what genre of music you liked and what the average demographic of that fan was. So back in the day, it was a lot of who I feel like big artists target now, which are, the younger adults of that time. When it was pre-internet, you couldn't talk to someone in California besides writing them a letter if you were in New York. And so they started the city-based fan clubs, so you could actually meet other fans who were in your city.
So then official means that the artist or their team is involved with the fan club. And back in the day, they would send out like magazines to all the members, and you would get like a signed picture of like the Beatles or something, or like they'll like write their members a letter or something.
Oh, that was so big in the day. And eventually it became a typed letter, but yeah, you would get a like fan club letter in the mail just saying like what they've been up to. Kind of like a Christmas card, like you know in the family updates, like everything the kids have done this year. That's how it was with bands.
Back then you still would get exclusive info about their career, and in like mid like 1900s you would get like personal information about them, which is not common obviously now because people are very nosy.
I think an interesting thing too is unofficial fan clubs, I feel like really turn into fan accounts.
Yeah.
Like that is what unofficial fan clubs used to be, or what fan accounts are doing now. And I think it was called Nick Jonas Ambassador. I can't remember what the website was called, but there was a fan run Nick Jonas website where just every day it was like they would post updates like Twitter has now, and so they would post different photos of like, oh, here's what he did today, and it was all website based, so that dates my age.
So that's the history of fan clubs, and in the wise words of Harry Styles, nothing ever goes to plan. You stub your toe or break your camera. Sarah Beth and I, one thing about us, we love to talk. This video went a little longer than we were planning, so we're gonna do part 2. And part 2 is gonna be all about how a fan club works. So stay tuned if you want to see that, and we'll see you in the next video.